Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, for taking time out of your schedules to attend this event. Today's topic, we have a pretty exciting, actually, our agenda itself is pretty jam-packed. We've got a lot of information to present to you, a lot of exciting information. The topic for today is advancing robotic CNC manufacturing. We're going to be talking about advanced robotic controls and the possibilities that opens up, where you may otherwise not have gone down a road with robotics. Hopefully after today, you're going to see that you can. Quick look at the agenda. We're going to go through till from 9:30 to about 10:50. We'll take a break at that time. We'll have a number of presentations. I'm going to welcome up here in a moment our Chief Technology Officer to give a few remarks. And then we have a ACM overview. We'll invite UConn up to give a brief couple of words about the program that they're offering to Connecticut manufacturers. And then we'll welcome up Nancy Tegway from DECD to kind of give an intro and information about the Connecticut SMARTE program. We'll talk about or introduce the tech partners, the folks that you'll be hearing from today about the specific technologies and the offerings that they're going to be presenting. And then we'll go through Siemens' presentation and ThinkPLC's presentation. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll go through the actual demonstration, digital thread, digital twin. We'll have lunch at around 12, and then we'll start the live demo at 12:30, and then we'll leave time for question and answers and networking from 1:30 to 2. At this time, I'd like to welcome up Amy Thompson. She is our Chief Technology Officer. Amy, if you can come up and give us a few words.
Thanks so much, Nasir. So good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's a pleasure to see so many manufacturing leaders, innovators, partners gathered here today. We're here to talk about the future, but as CCAT always does, is we seem to make the future bring that to today, right? Like what you can actually implement on your shop floor today. And this is defined by speed, precision, intelligence, and manufacturing. And the future begins with SINUMERIK ONE and ThinkPLC today, which you're going to hear more about. So SINUMERIK ONE isn't just another control system. It's a digital native CNC designed from the ground up to bring the power of simulation, virtual commissioning, real-time optimization directly into the manufacturing process. And the technology represents more than an advancement in machining. It's a shift in how we think about production. It's about connecting people, machines, data, information, enabling faster decisions, which is what we really want to empower our workforce with, smarter operations, more resilient manufacturing ecosystems. So as we move through today's session, I encourage you to think about what this means for your organization. How could digital twins reduce your downtime or predict errors, in your machining or production process? How can direct CAM integration shorten your development cycles? How could the next generation of robotic machining, robotic manufacturing expand what's possible in your products and designs? So today, Nasir is going to demonstrate all of this with the Kamau robotic machining cell as the application for this. He doesn't know it, but I started referring to the cell by name last week. I've named the Kamau cell Coco. Congratulations, it's a girl. And your machines are advanced when you start naming them and you start apologizing before you reboot them. So thank you guys for being here today, for being part of this journey. Together, we're not just advancing manufacturing, we're shaping the future. And so welcome guests, Nasir and partners, and let's begin. Nasir.
Thank you, Amy. Next, I'd like to welcome up Jessica Taylor, Executive Director of the ACM.
Thanks, Nasir. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody. As Nasir mentioned, my name is Jessica Taylor, the Executive Director of the ACM. Great to see some of our members here today, so thank you for joining us. Thank you to CCAT, Siemens, and ThinkPLC for putting this together for us. For those of you who may not be familiar with the ACM, we are a trade organization here in Connecticut and Western Massachusetts, representing a little over 140 member companies. And our companies are aerospace manufacturers, processors, and providers in the region that we call Aerospace Alley. So we like to, help partner with companies like CCAT to bring events like this to our members, and we do other workforce development initiatives, business development initiatives, and continuous improvement training. So thank you again for having us. We appreciate it and are looking forward to an informative session here this morning. So good to see everyone.
Thank you, Jessica. At this time, I'd like to invite Liang Zhang from the University of Connecticut.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Liang. I'm a professor at the University of Connecticut. I'm also the director of the UConn Industrial Training Assessment Center. So at UConn, we have actually two tech partners with CCAT and also one of the newer project in Connecticut that Nancy will talk about. So one of it is the UConn ITAC program. The other is the Connecticut Manufacturing Simulation Center, as you see the title under UConn here. So what we are trying to do here is, as an academic institution, I think we can be a good contributor to the ecosystem that can support the manufacturer community in Connecticut, which we, in addition to aerospace manufacturing, we actually have a very diverse range of manufacturing sectors in the state. For ITAC, we have conduct on-site energy efficiency assessments for over 60 manufacturers in the New England region. About 2/3 of them are in Connecticut, and we also cover manufacturers in Long Island, New York, Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont, and Rhode Island. So we're really happy to be in this conversation and bring our service to more manufacturers in the Connecticut state. So what we do currently is the conventional energy efficiency assessment. We partner with Eversource and Avangrid to bring the maximum benefits to the manufacturers, and also we help connect manufacturers with federal grants that could be made eligible to the manufacturers who work with us. In addition to that, what we're currently doing is to incorporate smart manufacturing assessment into our practice so that we can help small and medium-sized manufacturers who usually lack the expertise and bandwidth to enter this field to build a pathway and roadmap so that they can participate in this new wave of technology in an easier manner. So we're very glad to be here. Hope to have more conversation and connections with the manufacturing community around us.
Thank you, Liang. So at this point, I'd like to welcome up Nancy Tengwei from the state of Connecticut to talk about the Connecticut SMART program.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy Tengwei. As Nasir said, I am from the state of Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development, and I work in the offices of manufacturing and clean economy. And it's kind of a lengthy introduction, but sort of brings together the context of why I'm here. We have developed a program called CT SMARTE through funding from the Department of Energy and the state of Connecticut, trying to help small and medium-sized manufacturers incorporate smart manufacturing technologies into their facilities and into their manufacturing processes for a couple of reasons. One of them is to help reduce energy consumption. Connecticut has definitely some well-known issues in regards to the cost of energy and the energy supply. So we are trying to ease that by helping manufacturers advance the technology. We are also trying to help manufacturers remain competitive in the important supply chains that they support. And those are things we are working on. So we are finishing up the first year of our 2-year pilot project. We are reviewing the lessons that we've learned over this past year. And we need your help to move forward. I think that the things that we have figured out and learned are that we need to do a better job reaching the supply chains and letting the primes know that we're here and we're here to provide access to this technology support and funding support. Technology support comes through UConn, CCAT, important partners in this field. Funding comes through federal government, state funding. And so we need to do a better job letting you know we're here, figuring out how we can help you. We know that hand-holding is very important. We need to do a better job helping you access these tools. And so that's what we're here to do today. And we are supporting CCAT's role here in providing this information to you, and look forward to having conversations with all of you and hearing what you have to say and what your needs are. So thank you very much.
So we have a very exciting presentation, as I mentioned to you before. We're lucky to have Lars Faller, Bobby Cole, and Dan Kavanaugh with us here today. And I can't wait to have them come up to present the respective technologies that they've been pushing and advancing. I'd like to give a quick introduction to each one, just so that you can have a little bit more of a background of who we have speaking here today. Lars Faller, he started his career in manufacturing and has held many roles, from manufacturing engineer to applications engineer to design engineer, before ultimately starting his journey at Siemens Digital Industries, where he specialized in the Siemens SINUMERIK control and the advanced shop floor manufacturing technologies. 4 years ago, he decided to take the next step in his career and focus on account management. And today, he's responsible for leading the global automation strategy for one of Siemens' largest enterprise customers. Bobby Cole is the founder and principal engineer of ThinkPLC, a Siemens Gold Solutions partner based in North Carolina and recognized as one of the region's fastest growing automation companies. Under his leadership, ThinkPLC has become a national leader in Siemens-centric automation, digital twin integration, and mechatronic innovation. Bobby was honored as one of the top CEOs of 2024 by the Triad Business Journal. He also serves as an adjunct professor at Davison Davey Community College, is a Vistage leadership member, and a Siemens and Festo certified instructor with international training from the University of Esslingen in Germany. And Dan Kavanaugh, he is a sales and marketing manager for ThinkPLC, headquartered in Lexington, North Carolina. Based out of his office in Holyoke, Massachusetts, Dan is an active contributor across all sales channels for ThinkPLC, helping to expand the company's market presence and customer engagement nationwide. A mechanical engineer and graduate of Western New England College before it became a university, Dan brings decades of experience in industrial automation and material handling. He previously served as engineering manager at MK North America in Bloomfield, Connecticut, president and CEO of Cross Brothers Material Handling in Rochester, New York, and as a leading salesperson for a major systems integrator in Rochester, selling large-scale conveyor and robotic automation solutions ranging from palletizing to machine tending. Dan joined ThinkPLC 2 years ago, building on an established professional relationship with company owner Bobby Cole. His mission has been to develop a robust sales organization, broaden ThinkPLC's market reach, and educate customers on the advanced integrated automation solutions the company delivers. Please give me welcome Lars Faller up for his presentation.
Good morning. All right, my name is Lars Faller. I represent Siemens Digital Industries. For those of you who've heard the name Siemens, there's probably a lot of things that come to mind. Digital Industries specifically focuses on providing solutions for the manufacturing space. A couple of years ago, we were called Digital Factory. Right now, we're called Digital Industries. It's anybody's guess what we're going to be called in about 2 to 3 years, but just keep in mind that our solutions enable the manufacturing shop floor. So Siemens has been around for over 175 years now, which is quite impressive if I think about it. And the only constant in that time span is going to be change. So we've had a number of challenges we've had to overcome and adapt, just like you guys have. And I think that's what makes Siemens very unique amongst many manufacturers and technology vendors, is the fact that we are a manufacturer, we are a technology vendor. We produce all of our own components with our own technology. So by the time we go to market with a product, it's typically gone through a series of iterations and revisions, just because we test our product 24/7. So now we've been doing engineering work for over 175 years, but again, changes are around everywhere. Just one generation ago, one of our larger businesses faced an incredible amount of pressure from competition. So our PLC business was quite literally under attack, right? The market was getting flooded with a competitive PLC product. It wasn't as robust, it wasn't as capable, but it was much, much cheaper. So at the time, the trend was to more or less ship everything to an LCC, right? A low cost country. So at least we can be competitive on price. Now, thankfully, the decision was made to undergo and embark on our own digital transformation. Again, this is one generation ago. And today, that facility is still in Germany, that manufacturing facility. Nobody lost their jobs. We've increased our throughput dramatically. We've been able to utilize all of our solutions, improve, and quite literally complete our first step of our own digital transformation. That facility today still stands, and last year was actually awarded the WEF Lighthouse Award. So that's one of our key digital transformation factories that can actually be toured today in Germany. We do tours pretty much 5 days a week, and it's very exciting to have been a part of that journey. So you see here on the slide, our purpose, we believe, is to create technology to transform the everyday for absolutely everyone. Again, all the technology that we manufacture is manufactured using our own technology, and we want to make that available for everybody. And this is where CNC One comes in. You heard Amy mention CNC One. CNC One is our latest state-of-the-art CNC control platform. CNC One is what I call the execution backbone of that Kamau cell you're going to see later today. It's considered to be a digitally native CNC control. So what that means is, essentially, rather than putting a system together and figuring out the digital architecture afterwards, we started with digital architecture in mind. So we took all the lessons that we learned and some more from our digital transformation in our factory that I mentioned before, and we applied it to all of our technologies. So when we take a look at a CNC control system, there are numerous aspects that we've had available in a digital format for many, many years. The one thing that was truly missing was a virtualized PLC. We already had a virtualized numerical control, the NC. We had virtualized digital inputs and outputs. We can simulate motors, drives, etc. But in 2015, we embarked on SINUMERIK ONE, and the first step was to create a virtualized PLC. Now, with this next component, this virtual PLC, we can now simulate a CNC control platform from beginning to end before the bill of material is ever completed, sent to various suppliers, and the machine is put together. Now we've basically given this, packaged this CNC control platform, and we make it available for everybody. Now, what that means as an end user is that every single SINUMERIK ONE CNC has a digital twin. That doesn't necessarily mean that your systems integrator or machine tool builder is going to give you a three-dimensional machine space model that you can use for simulation. But from the CNC perspective, the NC, the digital IOs, the virtual PLC, that is all available. And I'm happy to share that a lot more customers and OEMs of ours are starting to jump on this bandwagon and starting to offer a fully digital twin with a 3D machine space model available as an additional line item. So that is SINUMERIK ONE. I have a quick video here with what I call German music. So let's see if this works.
Built for sustainability. Performance that leads. Designed for the future. Empowering the future of manufacturing. SINUMERIK ONE. Turn your ideas into reality.
Okay, that's enough with German music for now. So in that video, you saw quite a few things. Anybody who has any experience with SINUMERIK is probably well aware that the options there are pretty vast. I mean, if you were to get into the CNC control system and start to make changes, we have tens of thousands of machine parameters, options, applications, very complex. But I'll be here all day. If you guys have any specific questions, just let me know. Certainly, we don't have enough time to go through all the options here on the slide deck. But beyond the Comau robot cell, there's also a track vertical machining center. There's a second one being installed here shortly. We got some DMG Mori laser equipment back there behind us as well. So lots to talk about. The one thing I want to focus on now, and you saw it in the video as well, that there's many different technologies represented from a manufacturing perspective. There was some vertical milling centers. There was some turning equipment. Obviously, here we're showcasing some robotic equipment. The big takeaway here is that the SINUMERIK CNC control quite literally does not care what it's connected to. So it can be running a 2-axis lathe, a mill turn, a turn mill, a laser additive hybrid. It truly does not care, including robotics. And that's what we're here today to see and check out for the first time. And certainly we have, I'm grateful that we have Bobby and Dan from ThinkPLC here today, truly the subject matter experts when it comes to this integration. Big takeaway beyond the openness of the control system for SINUMERIK ONE and robotics, I think that's really, really crucial is to understand it's a simplified operating and programming environment. So it's the same user interface, it's the same HMI, the human machine interface. And for anybody who's struggling through, throughput or increasing quality, scaling locally, or maybe even scaling across different facilities, it's absolutely important that you have basically a unified machine interface. If we take a look at some examples, not necessarily aerospace, but automotive, for example, there's a reason why the large automotive players all have a unified, standardized HMI. Now, with SINUMERIK, that is absolutely possible. Again, it doesn't matter what's on the other side of the control. The control is going to look the same to the operator, so that alleviates a lot of pain points for cross-training, et cetera. Now we have a quick video on robotics, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with the trade show EMO. Just happened a couple of months ago, and a couple of weeks ago, actually, in Germany. There's a very cool video that I like to put on here just to showcase some capability, because certainly using CNC for robotics and machining is something that's quite new and probably not really accepted yet. So I don't know about you guys here, but when I first saw this video, unfortunately, I couldn't be there in person. This was showcased at EMO in our booth, in the Siemens booth. That was tool steel. It was pretty incredible. So when I first saw that video, I was thinking back to the first time I saw a 3D printer in action. I kind of said to myself, holy smokes, if I had that thing 10, 15 years ago, I would have printed the whole world. And I have similar feelings about seeing a robot perform like this today. So from my perspective, it's very exciting. I think it's an amazing time in manufacturing. But I would be remiss to not talk about the digital twin here for a minute. So again, as I mentioned before, every single SINUMERIK ONE that is in action today, by design, has a digital twin. That's just part of the commissioning project, the commissioning process there. Now, there's a myriad of reasons why you'd want to have access to a digital twin and why you should seriously consider incorporating digital twins into your environment if you haven't done so already. I'm just going to talk about a couple of them, but the list is quite extensive. First of all, you're going to get to production much faster. What does that mean? Well, ever since the supply chain that we all went through, supply chain crisis we went through recently, the average lead time of manufacturing equipment has increased dramatically. Now, if you were to go ahead and order a machine that historically maybe took 12 months to get to your facility, if that now takes 14 to 16 months, you got to start making parts, right? So why wouldn't you start the process development if you can do that? Now, if you do decide to talk to an OEM and you place an order for a new piece of equipment, and it's going to take 14, 16 months, there's probably not much you can change about that. However, one thing you can start to leverage today is the digital twin to actually start to do process development. Here, what you see in the little recording, there is actually again, it's a CNC controlled robot using our shop mill, our conversational programming interface, just to give you an idea of usability and user friendliness. But again, the idea here is if it's going to take that long for a new asset to hit your shop floor and be operational, you might as well get some process development done ahead of time. Maybe you have to work on your post processor, right? Maybe you want to work on fixturing, or maybe you actually get started on programming altogether. You can do that. You can test new tool paths, new configurations. You can do cycle time studies that are very accurate because we have this virtualized PLC. So historically, let's talk about cycle time analysis, for example. Historically, we could always simulate the NC for the last 15 plus years now, not without any problems. But you need a virtualized PLC if you're going to simulate tool changes. Now, if you have a long part that might be running for a week, 2 weeks, 4 months in some cases, that starts to add up relatively quickly. So you have the ability to do some process development with some accurate cycle times studies, and you can really test the limits without having to worry about breaking anything. And then lastly, and again, there's a very, very long list, but lastly, it's worth noting that we're all struggling finding qualified people, right? So it's very important and very beneficial if you can train somebody on the programming and operation of this equipment, because if you hire somebody even right out of college who's highly qualified or not, doesn't matter. If that individual breaks this virtual machine, it just does not matter. All you do is you hit the cycle restart button. Worst case scenario, you restart the software. So it's a no-brainer in my mind. It's something everybody should be leveraging. If you want to be competitive, digital twins in 2025 should be an absolute must for everybody here. So that's really it for my presentation here today. We have a great partner. And there's one more thing I want to add. Typically I get the question when we do these presentations in front of my customers, the next question inevitably is, okay, so what kind of CNC machine does Siemens build? What kind of robot would you suggest? What kind of AGV do you have? And the answer is we don't, right? Siemens does not build CNC machines. We don't build robots. We don't build AGVs, etc., gantry systems. What we do manufacture is all the components that make that equipment do what it needs to do. So the PLCs, the motors, the drives, digital IOs, etc., connectors. We rely on our solution partner network to actually turn these components into functioning pieces of equipment. So we have ThinkPLC here today. ThinkPLC is very unique in the sense that they are, I would argue, the most qualified factory automation and machine tool systems integrator that Siemens has here in the United States. It takes a while to get to that step. It takes a lot of training, and I'm glad that we're here today with them. Quite literally, I have the know-how about Siemens products, but if it comes to systems and system integration, Bobby and Dan are the guys to talk to today. So if there's any questions later on, we'll have a quick Q&A session. So thank you.
Thank you, Lars. So at this time, I'd like to welcome up Dan Kavanaugh and Bobby Cole to give their presentation.
You'll have to give me just a minute to switch over here if you don't mind. How's everybody doing? Good. I was just thinking myself sitting back there, if I tell my wife I was out with Coco while I was out of town late last night, it's going to be interesting travel home this week. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you guys for joining us. We get to talk a little bit about how we make this this hardware and software work together. I want to start off a little bit with the agenda. I think we kind of know why we're here, so we'll move on forward. Again, Bobby Cole, thanks for having me here. If you can't tell by my accent, I'm from North Carolina, so appreciate you guys having me up this way. Appreciate joining you. If you Google us, you'll find all kinds of propaganda, a lot of it which is using something with Siemens technologies. You'll see us in a lot of articles, whether it be for Krispy Kreme donut, where we build all the control panels that go around the world on their control systems, or something integrating robots, pretty eclectic. So you'll find stuff like that if you look us up. Also, we're very active with education, which is one of the reasons why I'm here. So we like to get out in front of folks and promote what we do in technology. And from a technical perspective, I would utilize and lean on the marketing and education capabilities of Siemens, like you have here. Sorry. They have full webinar series. If you're interested in how to get into this world of making things work, there's free education out there everywhere. And some of that's through the TIA Portal webinar series. This just happens to be one that I joined on about a new programming language. And to Laura's point, we're kind of a rarity. We're a systems integrator, but we're the only factory automation certified and machine tool certified integrator in the United States, making us very standalone or rare. But when it comes to education, I want to start talking about some of these buzzwords you're hearing. So 5 years ago, I was educating board members at large corporations on what edge and IoT was. It was coming down that we have to go with edge, and if we don't do IoT, we'll be out of business in a few years. So I'm explaining in layman's terms what that meant for them. And so we advanced forward just to come back to what the digital thread is now. And so large folks like the Fords and the large automotive manufacturers have been focused on the digital thread for many years. And for us small to medium-sized manufacturers, we just couldn't afford it. We didn't know what it meant. And really when you hear people talking about the digital thread these days, what we're doing, we're backing up and we're trying to pull in more what we need, all right, as the end user. What do we need out of what we're implementing technology? Because you don't just implement technology to implement technology. I wish you did, but that's not best for you guys, right? And so how do we define scope in a way? How do we leverage what our lessons learned before? And how do we bring that back to the small, medium-sized folks? And that's what the digital thread is now. So I want to talk about that a little bit more. So one of my favorite movies of all time is Apollo 13, just amazing drama about heroism, American history. Everybody know those 5 famous words? What were they? Houston, we have a problem, right? So it's really it's a story about systems, believe it or not, logical systems. And there's actually 13 seconds in that movie that hit me the most, which is they said that's not supposed to happen. You know what I mean? We planned and planned and planned, and it was not supposed to happen. So that's the digital thread in a nutshell, which is like planning for your system, proving your system, and then implementing in that way. So I have one joke in our industry, and I'm going to give it to you. You can take it back today and try it on your friends. Try not to botch it. But controls engineer, mechanical engineer, and safety guys driving up a mountain. They get in a wreck. They get out. Safety guy says, if it was me, I would have put a well-lit sign and better mark the road. The mechanical engineer gets out, says, if it was me, I would have better designed the guardrail, withstand our impact. And the controls guy gets out and says, if it's, let's go back and see if it happens again. If you've ever worked around us controls guys, you'll get that. What that means is these systems get themselves in a state where recovery or fault enunciation wasn't planned for. So if you've ever had something stick like every day with a Windows box, they get themselves in these logical situations they were never planned for. And the point of all this is if you do better planning, better preparation, using things like the digital twin and other solutions, you can create these bugs. We call them features, but these bugs you can get yourself into. There's a better path forward for you and your team, or you as the end user. So a couple new things that I want to promote here today. Solution Link is really neat. You can work with your local Siemens person to implement this. It will soon be out for everyone to use. So what Solution Link is essentially it's like getting on the whiteboard and planning out the scope of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And what it does is it leverages vertical industry knowledge. So if you guys are in aerospace, you click the aerospace. You know, if you're food and bev, you click the food and bev, and it gives you a list of questions basically to workshop, okay, what you're doing and how you're going to get there. So you're just more intelligent about the execution. And what that does is instead of just, you know, Bobby has some little buzzword or some technology he's good at, I don't just throw that at you. The end solutions or products, it's not even a conversation. It's about how to solve that problem, and then the product phase in comes later. So we're not, you know, just doing things the old way. And then when you implement the digital thread, the true implementation is going to be when you simulate, and even simulate where you're tied into the real world. So you're connected to the real world system. So we'll show you a little bit more about that today. Some other new technologies is out there. Everybody's on the AI kick, right? You got to be in the AI world. For us implementing this technology, there's a new website available by Siemens called the Automation Knowledge Guide. Think of ChatGPT because that's essentially what it is, but it's focused for Siemens, and it allows us to, an operator can say, why did my machine stop with this fault code? And not only will you get the product manuals that could be engaging for that, but you can also have this write code for you. So Ryan and I are pretty nervous right now. You know, AI is basically writing PLC code, which is how we make money. But it actually puts out really good PLC code, G code for your SINUMERIK machine. If you forgot syntax, you can ask it. It's a free utility. It's out there. It's available. It's going to just from a design perspective all the way through to an operator perspective. It's going to help you guys out. So I suggest you play with it. Okay, while we're here, Run MyRobot. Run MyRobot is obviously you've heard a lot about it. It's where we're taking Siemens product technologies and we're implementing it on what we consider a commodity robot. Okay, so through the partner ecosystem like Kamau and other manufacturers, we're taking the industry standard. I want to make sure this is clear. You guys don't have to design your robot. We're taking industry standard off-the-shelf robot and we're implementing Siemens technologies on top of it to make it do what we want to do. Okay, so I'll explain to you how ThinkPLC plays into this. Well, Siemens makes this great hardware, software, and then you have folks like Kamau makes an amazing robot. And so who's in the middle of that? Well, that's ThinkPLC. We have an American-made control system that's packaged up. We've become the easy button for Run MyRobot applications around the world. And what happens is we have this packed up to make it easy on you and your customers. So as an example, we assemble these down in North Carolina. We ship these around the world. There's an example of an NJ220. That's a big old robot where we've sold many of these packed up with our package of the Run MyRobot solution. So our solution is a UL certified system. It's basically an enclosure with all the good stuff, the software, hardware done for you. Okay, so you have the low voltage control system, as we'll talk about in a second. You're going to see this box in action next door, by the way. So we won't PowerPoint you to death today, I promise. Okay, and why would people do this? Because we've already done the heavy lifting. We've already done the design. You get to own all that. And so you plug this in, put power on it, and start your robot up, and you're doing machining processes. So some of the other things we've done made it easy to connectorize. Okay, so just like your standard commodity robot, we're going to have a teach pendant deadband switch that you control. but you have additional features like hand wheels and things like you have on a machine control panel if you're used to the CNC environment. Okay. Other things are industry off the shelf products like Siemens drives, IO. These are things you can call a local distributor. They may or may not have on the shelf, but it's something more commoditized from a local standpoint, because these are the same products we're using in factory automation projects, like if we're running a conveyor and things like that. We've brought those in the same package. Okay, so as an example, what these boxes look like when they're all packed up and ready to ship. Other ancillary things that we educate people on is we have solutions around the robot, around the machining, welding, additive. All these things they're common practices. So we have spindle enclosures. So if you need to do tool changes and run your spindle, we have packages already pre-built, so you can go to market and have your robot doing the machining process. Things like tool stands, where you can actually uncouple your weld head and pick up a milling head. So you have a multi-purpose machine that you can customize, right? So instead of having that fixed DMG Mori machine, you can machine with a robot, and then you can go laser weld with it or MIG weld or whatever you need to do, and using all the same features that you'll get in other CNC applications. So often with our robots, we package up probing solutions like Renishaw and Bloom Pro packages. We're a Bloom distributor. So just like you have to do in a CNC mill or lathe, you need to probe the part to find it. Or if you want to reverse engineer a part to build yourself a CMM, you can have the robot do that. This is getting very popular, especially in aerospace. Okay. The great thing about this is you don't have to do anything custom. You can use the standard measuring cycles, or probing cycles for better terms, that's built into the control platform, and no custom software needed. Okay. And then it comes to the advanced safety. So you have a robot. These are not collaborative robot. These are very beefy, very complex systems. You can now integrate what's called advanced kinematic safety. And so what that does is allows us to essentially build virtual fences from a safety perspective. And then using the TIA portal software, we'd use to program the PLC that's, I don't know, running a pump in the building, use that same software to build the safety system. And so you can, instead of having multiple PLC manufacturers, then a robot manufacturer, which is very common today, we can do it all in the CNC PLC. We don't need other control enclosures and other technologies. You can do it all built in the same platform. Okay. So when you put all this together, there's a way to digitize it so that you can build your PLC program. You can build your machine yourself by embedding in your step files for your machine. You can automate those just like you would in SolidWorks, NXCAM, whatever you use. And we bring them into the digital twin. I'll just bring that up for you. So there's two platforms. There's one called Create My Virtual Machine, and then there's one called Run My Virtual Machine. So Create My Virtual Machine is where you as the end user, where you're a machine builder or you're just an end user that builds your own machines, it allows you to have a virtual CNC system. It allows you to bring in your step files or STL files, whatever, however you like to work. And then you can animate those, like you see the robot with the lathe here. And what that allows us to do is then automate our system. I turn on the TIA Portal PLC simulator, and then I can pull up TIA Portal and I can do all my ladder logic or SCL language. So I can actually test my PLC and how it's going to work alongside the CNC control. It seamlessly is built in. And then we can add on to that what's called the Siemens software. So if any piece of this I have real world hardware I want to work with, Siemens software takes the digital world and connects it to real world hardware. So you can like have the downstream machine not available yet. You can put my real machine in Siemens and then use the digital twin to parse the actual production line. We're actually doing machining processes as we speak. This is good. This is something came up recently. Obviously, you see it removing material. If you're doing additive where you're laser welding or MIG welding or 3D printing, you can actually have it grow the material. So you can see your additive product actually create inside this platform. So it's being used quite often for not only removing material, but adding material. Have I lost anybody yet? Any more jokes? Okay, so it's cool to talk about stuff. Then it's like rubber hitting the road and actually making things work. So a couple use cases that we can talk about that I want to share with you is what's great is I'm talking about these use cases with partners, or what we call our ecosystem, where we've worked Kamau. Kamau supplied the robots either to ThinkPLC or sold them directly to our end customers, which is fine. And then these end customers or partners will use our control package because it's the easy button, right? Could they build that control panel? Probably. But why, when ThinkPLC has a UL sticker on it and it works? So it become the easy button. In this case, our partner is Six Sigma, which is a amazing NX CAD CAM supplier, big in aerospace. Some of you guys may know these folks. We were brought a complex task that I can somewhat talk about. I can kind of show you with cartoons. And I can talk about how we probed this part, and we did very advanced motions to work about this part. I can't tell you what we did on the part, just say that the part was profiled. And so as you're getting the hint, we used the NJ130 just like CCAT has here with the Hiteco spindle, and we used the balloon probing package to do just that, and saw amazing success with that. And then another one is our friends at Siemens Energy in the Siemens Catch facility. So Siemens Catch is like CCAT. They're down in Charlotte, but they're a Siemens funded group. And what their purpose is to show additive manufacturing and to work with manufacturers like yourselves. And what they'll do is they'll take and spend millions of dollars to invest in equipment. They will help you with your product. And then they just hope you'll use Siemens technologies when you go to market with it. So they're based in Charlotte. With these guys, we use the NJ60 Kamau. We use the orbital table from Kamau. We use the Siemens drives, our box, our software. And what we did is we have a multi-part head from Fronius MIG welding to diode laser welding to machining processes all in one part. So we have an ATI tool changer where we can drop each head, pick up whatever working head we need, whatever tool you need. And it's in a nitrogen purged cabinet, as you can see here. We're being very safe as we're running the robot, as you can tell here too. But these are just a couple use cases, and it goes on and on and on. But if you're removing material or adding material, it's a really interesting conversation. So I'll just wrap this up in what Run MyRobot isn't, and you'll see some processes live over here. Run MyRobot is not a commodity application. We're not going to do pick and place, right? You're not going to be palletizing boxes on a pallet. If you can do that with an ABB robot or a FANUC robot, that's great. I'd suggest Kamau, but nonetheless, they can all do that. If you need a very advanced interpolator that is very, very precise, okay? If you need to interface with a SINUMERIK CNC control, it's a good solution, okay? But what it's not is a commodity style robot. Is it affordable? Yes. Is applications, creative applications doable with it? For sure. But with that being said, I'm excited to talk to you about it while you're seeing it, because I'm just hypotheticals here. So I'll turn it back over to Nasir, and I want to thank you guys for having us up here. So thanks.
Thank you, Bobby. The topic of my presentation today is going to be on advanced CNC control for robotic applications. I'm going to go through a quick overview, of the presentation and kind of what you're going to hear about. And after this, after the presentation, I'm going to switch over to my laptop here and kind of go through a live demo. And then we'll break for lunch, and we'll serve lunch right over here. We can eat right at the tables, and then we'll go after lunch over to the actual subcell. The goal of my presentation is for you to really understand the benefits of the SINUMERIK ONE and Run MyRobot for high precision robotic applications with the Kamau NJ130. You heard from Lars from Siemens about the great technology that they have developed in the CNumeric One control. Again, that's a digital native control. And then from Bobby Cole of ThinkPLC, who are the solution provider. They've packaged a very nice solution, and I'm happy to present our experience with them. How we were able to work with them and how quickly we were able to get our Kamau cell switched over to CNumeric One control. And we're just so excited to see what the possibilities are with it. So let's first talk about standard robot controllers so that we can kind of level set, right? What are we comparing against? Now, this isn't any particular robotic control. I'm going to generalize it. So some robotic controls may have some other capabilities and may be better at some things or worse, but I've tried to generalize it so that we're not comparing against one specific control. So just keep that in mind. So generally speaking, robotic controls do have some challenges in precision and integration. And I say that, with the understanding that we're comparing against high precision CNC machining, right? So in the world of robotics, you may have very high precision robotics, but generally speaking, when you're comparing to high precision CNC machining, it's kind of in a different class. And so when I say precision, repeatability, accuracy, I don't mean to degrade current robotic technologies by any means. It's just that now we're talking about a different class, and when you have that comparison, we just want to just level set on that. So limited path accuracy. So standard controllers lack precise path accuracy and interpolation for smooth robotic machining. There's little to no real-time process control. And when we say real-time, right, that's subjective. What do we mean by real-time? Is it 200 millisecond delay? Is it 1 millisecond delay? So it's a bit subjective. But the controllers, the standard robotic controllers, do not support dynamic adjustments to feed rate and spindle speed during machining, generally speaking. Absence of native CNC functions, so lack of CNC capabilities leads to complex post-processing of CAM-generated G code. And I'm going to go through a walkthrough in a couple slides that compares the workflow of generating a machining program on a standard robot, a controller versus the CNumeric One. So you'll get a little bit more detail there. And then it's challenging to integrate with CAM. Integrating controllers with CAM systems can be difficult, limiting high precision manufacturing with standard robot controls. Let's take a look at how this compares with CNumeric One and Run MyRobot. We have that background and the introduction of the technology with Lars's presentation, and of course with Bobby's presentation as well. So some of this is going to be repeat, but from our perspective, I'd like to run this video real quick. This is a Siemens production here. From a technology and integration standpoint, the SINUMERIK One offers high performance CNC control, right, for advanced manufacturing tasks. So you'll see when we go over to our the Atom Lab area, we have two other machines as Lars already mentioned. We have a Track VMC 12 SI and a Track VMC 10 SI. The first one is a 5-axis, second one is a 4th-axis machine. Both of them use SINUMERIK One. And we can, get high precision parts out of those machines. I'm going to bring up QR codes at the end. We have done, this is the 4th presentation in the series for the Connecticut Smart Series. And we had originally in presentation 1 and 2 talked about in detail the digital thread and the digital twin. And it's really the SINUMERIK One that really enabled it in a way which we couldn't have thought possible. So when I say advanced CNC control, there's a lot to that. And the QR codes that I'll bring up at the end will give you access to the videos that we recorded so that you can get a more in-depth look in case you have the interest to see more on what we mean by that. But I'll define the terms a little bit later. Real-time robot synchronization. So Run MyRobot enables real-time kinematic synchronization between robots and CNC systems. In our demo today, we're just running the robot without CNC. So the SINUMERIK One controller is controlling the robot direct without, it's not like a machine tending application or anything. We're doing robotic machining, deburring, and polishing with that cell. And I'll bring up the different systems, the different robotic heads, if you will, that we're going to be integrating, one of which that you'll see here. The integration of a CNC native control, really, obviously, it combines, as Bobby pointed out, the flexibility of robotics with the precision and control of CNC. And I'm going to present here in a minute one of the very advanced features of the SINUMERIK One that actually does force compensation while you're doing robotic machining in order for that robot to stay on path so you get an accurate part out. And what this does is it opens the doors to high precision applications, right? Where you otherwise wouldn't have thought of using a robot for a specific application. The SINUMERIK One with Run MyRobot really opens the doors to allow you to think that way now. If you have very complex geometries, complex parts where even on 5 axes, it might be difficult, right, to do some of these processes. With the 6 axes and additional axes, we're eventually going to have a full 8 axes with, all synchronous. And that flexibility will allow us to do some really great demonstrations. And again, this cell that we'll take a look at later is eventually going to be for you, for your purpose, for you to come here and for us to show and demonstrate, on your parts, but more on that later. So what are the advantages for machining applications? Again, we're talking about CNC level precision and path control for quality machine parts. We have real-time parameter control. So the controller itself enables dynamic adjustments of feed rate, spindle speed, and tool path during the operation. There's direct CAM G code compatibility. So you're out of your CAM solution, you're posting out G code and you're ingesting that or consuming that G code directly on the control. It is not G code converted to robot language. It's direct G code, and the controller is able to handle the number of points that are contained within the G code. Complex 5-axis machining, so supports intricate geometries and smooth finishes with advanced 5-axis robotic paths. Here's a comparison of the workflow between a standard robot controller to come up with a machining operation for your robot versus the workflow for Siemens NX CAM plus SINUMERIK One plus Run MyRobot. So when it comes to CAD import and path planning on the robot side, you would import part geometry into the robot specific offline programming software. So whatever you use to program your robots, you would import the geometry in there. And then you would manually define deburring paths or use any custom algorithms that might be available that can semi-automate that process. On the SINUMERIK side, you have CAD/CAM and direct integration. So you would import the part geometry directly into NXCAM, and then you would use CAM strategies to define deburring paths. For example, edge following or contouring paths. And my demonstration will show some of that here in a minute. On the robot side, for toolpath generation, so here you're in a scenario where you've imported your geometry into your offline robot programming software, and you're manually defining the deburring paths. But now you have to generate the actual, tool path. So you have to generate robot-specific motion paths. So, for example, as I showed in the previous slide, joint, via either joint moves or Cartesian, moves. And you have limited support for G-code or CAM integration at this point. On the SINUMERIK side, the toolpath programming, you generate G-code using standard CNC post-processors. There's no need for robot-specific language conversion. So you're not going from generating CAM program and going through a converter to maybe another robot language, right? Again, you're going straight from your path generation to G-code to ingestion on the control. So on the robot side, post-processing, you have to convert paths into robot-specific language like Rapid, KRL, Val3, and this may require custom post-processors. On the SINUMERIK side, you've already posted it out, and now you're at the point of digital twin simulation. So you can simulate your robot motion and machining in NXCAM, and then you can validate kinematics, reachability, and cycle time using a real robot model. And my demo will go through that as well. On the robot side, force control setup, you have to configure force torque sensors and integrate with a robot controller. This often requires an external PLC or custom logic, as Bobby had mentioned. On the SINUMERIK side, you have the CNC control does all this. So you map robot kinematics onto SINUMERIK One via Run MyRobot. You configure the spindle, deburring tool, and force sensors within the CNC environment. On the robot side, for deployment, you transfer the program to the robot controller, and then you test and tune on the physical cell. On the SINUMERIK side, for deployment, you transfer G-code directly to SINUMERIK One, and the robot executes path with CNC level precision and real-time control. On the robot side, you'd go through some iterations, so manual adjustments to paths or parameters, and then you would reload and retest. On the SINUMERIK side, you would go directly to optimization. So you can adjust the CAM parameters, feed speeds, toolpaths in NXCAM or plugins, such as third wave production module. And then you can resimulate and redeploy without manual robot programming. So this is a side-by-side comparison of a traditional, robot workflow, and then what the Siemens SINUMERIK One and Run MyRobot enables. This is a table that kind of lists out in a little bit more of a kind of a high-level overview. So if we look at the programming language, standard robot controller uses proprietary robot code. SINUMERIK One and Run MyRobot uses standard G code. CAM integration is limited on robot controllers. It's native on SINUMERIK One. Path accuracy is moderate on standard robots with standard robot controls. And with the SINUMERIK and Run MyRobot, you get CNC level precision. Again, we're talking about two different worlds here, the robotic world of accuracy and precision versus the CNC. And we're migrating the robot accuracy over to the CNC side. In simulation, you have a robot offline programming. With the SINUMERIK One and Run MyRobot, you have a full digital twin. Force control, you have external integration on robot controllers. With SINUMERIK One, you have native CNC support. And flexibility is, for the standard robot controllers, you have manual tuning capabilities there. But with the SINUMERIK One and Run MyRobot, it's a CAM-driven automation. So you would do everything right within the CAM. another quick video to show force control. This is a Siemens production. I just want to point out here, that's an order of magnitude, right? So if you had the function turned off on the CNC One Roco, I believe it's called, in this particular demonstration on this metal with the specific tool they use, you would otherwise get plus or minus 1 millimeter accuracy on machining those features. Whereas when you turn on Roco and you have force compensation, you are at 0.2 millimeters. That's an order of magnitude. So we're talking about here, they're showing 62% deflection compensation. And in some other demonstrations that I've seen, you can go higher than that. And then with the full digital twin integration, and I'll talk more about what that means with collecting real-time data on an edge device and adding the edge applications on top of what the SINUMERIK One itself offers, you're in a really good position to do very high precision machining applications on this. So we saw a little bit about the force control feature there, where the system adjusts pressure dynamically to maintain quality and avoid, part damage itself. There's adaptive pathing, so real-time response to part geometry ensures precise deburring and polishing, as well as machining. I left that one out. Sensor integration. Sensors provide data enabling dynamic parameter adjustments for consistent quality. And then altogether, you have improved quality and reliability using robotics for these types of machining applications. So in this video, I'd like, this is kind of going into now the end effectors and what other kinds of technologies you can add to the system. And here we're going to be showing a ATI radially compliant deburring tool. And what this is it allows you to further compensate for geometry distortions or, actual geometry that you're processing on the robot. And you'll see here that the actual deburring tool will give way, and it's controlled pneumatically. So you can allow the tool to be more rigid or more flexible depending on the air pressure. we're integrating. The ThinkPLC is integrating a lot of different end effectors for us on our Kamau system here. One of them is a high-techo spindle. This is the HX series. It takes a HSK 63A tool holder. Its max power is 20 kilowatts. RPM, we can go up to 24,000. And the max torque in Newton meters is about 20.1 for this particular synchronous motor. So here, it's full synchronous, so that means that we can do tapping, we can control, the RPM on the, dynamically control the RPM on the spindle. And this is gonna allow us to do robotic machining demonstrations for you. So again, the system that you'll see when we go over there is being set up not for CCAT, is being set up for you so that you can come and actually see what the robot with this advanced controller along with these end effectors are capable of doing for you and for your businesses. And of course, you've met the solution providers here that can go in and very quickly stand up these solutions within a matter of days. These are some future integrations. We're going to get an orbital single lathe positioner. This is the model here is a PTS ORB 1000. It's a 2-axis, essentially like a trunnion table. So we'll have 8 axes of manipulation on parts. We already have in-house the radially compliant deburring tool, the RC 230, not the 490 that you saw in the video. It's a little bit of a different system here. And then an axially compliant finishing tool that is the AOV-10. Both of those, the deburring and the polishing tool, are from ATI. The orbital single lathe is from Kamau through ThinkPLC. So again, with the high-end CNC control, you're mapping 5-axis tool paths to 6 motors on a robot, right? How do you control those motors in such a way where you can achieve an accurate end product? And the Run MyRobot solution does that. Tool synchronization, machining tools like spindles and deburring tools are synchronized for seamless operation through the control, not through a separate system. There's safety and tool changer integration that's possible here. So Siemens PLCs manage safety and tool changes to ensure efficient workflow, as mentioned. This creates a really robust system platform. So the configuration supports advanced robotic machining with high payload precision. What I'd like to do is just switch over now to kind of the live demo, and I'll show you our Kamau cell within Siemens NX CAM. And I'll show you some of the CAM operations that we've added to our demo piece, and how we did that, and then how we actually simulate the robot motion within Siemens NX CAM, and then how we post that program out that can then be executed on the machine. Just give me a moment here to switch over. So here I'm in Siemens NX in the CAM environment, and we have our cell built out in here. This is what's called if you just look at the Kamau NJ130, this is what's called a machine kit. And I have my part in the vise here on the table. This is our demo piece that consists of a lot of different kinds of, prismatic features, along with some that are not prismatic, just some surfaces there. And in the past, we have shown how we can actually use all the advanced functions within Siemens NX CAM for it to actually generate the CNC operations for you. And it does that by analyzing the geometry. It does a manufacturable feature extraction. So it looks at the slots, the bosses, the facing opportunities, holes, chamfers, things of that nature. And then furthermore, it can read the PMI that's attached to the particular feature. So you notice that there's a surface roughness attached to this surface here. There's a diameter call out on the surface here. And what you can do in Siemens CAM is you can set up what are called operation sets. So you can actually teach it the logic that you would normally make to come up with the strategy to produce that feature. I'm going to talk more about that specifically. That was a previous demo, so I'm not going to go into it in depth, but just enough for the audience here, so you can understand what those functions enable. But for now, in this particular environment, I'm just going to show you, what I did to set this up for the machining operation. So right now, I'm in my assembly navigator, and I just want to hide the fence so it's not in the way. And I'm going to go down to my operation navigator here. And then here I have set up my operations for actually producing this part. So if I zoom in, I first have my adaptive milling path. And you can see a preview of the tool and the holder that's used to produce that particular, or that's used to cut that path. Then I have a rest milling operation, then a wall and flooring. And then I have some to smooth out the edge blends there. The chamfers at the top of that part, a chamfer along the outside border, and then a deburring. So the demo that we're going to run is going to be on the deburring, but I'd like to just quickly go through to show you how quick it is to set this up. Even though I'm going to do this manually here, just to walk you through the ease of setting this up, there is a model-based workflow to do this so that you would just have a edge break call out on the edges from your design software, and you would simply import that into Siemens NX CAM environment, and you can just click a button and have it generate the deburring process, so long as you had taught it, based on the material, based on the tool that you have, certain conditions, that it would generate the type of toolpath that you would normally have generated. But here I'm just going to walk you through. Since I already have that one set up, I'm going to do a new one here. I got to hide my. So what I can do is I could just right click on the last operation here, and I'll go to insert and then operation. And in this case, this is a planar part, so I'm going to stick with my mill planar type. You can see I have a whole bunch of different operation types in here. So mill planars are what I'm going to go with, and then my mouse is hovered over the planar deburring toolpath. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to give it some information. So my program is going to go under my program, which I have specified down here. You can see the program. I've got my tool list here and the available tools. And then this is really my my geometry view. So I'd like to stick in this view because it gives me a clear view of my machine coordinate system. So in this case, I'm using a G54 for my offset. And my G54 here is actually located on my part at the top hole here. I could put it, somewhere where, if we were to use a probe, we could use the probe to get that point. But in this case, I just put it here on top of this hole. So I'm gonna use my chamfer mill that I have already in my tool available to the robot. The geometry is my workpiece here. So you can see I named it workpiece. So I'm gonna choose workpiece. And then for my method, right now I have different methods that I can predefine. So if there's specific parameters that I want to use for finishing or for roughing or for semi-finishing, I can choose those. For now, I'm just going to hit none and then hit OK. And then this will bring up the dialog for the deburring. All I really have to do is just go to the geometry tab and click on the specify cut area. And I'm just going to click on the top faces here. Right, and maybe this one as well. So I'm going to deburr all the edges that NXCam recognizes having selected those faces. I'll click OK, and then I'm just simply going to hit generate. So that creates my toolpath, and I'm going to click OK. Now, the important piece is, how do I go from here to simulating the robot motion? With robots, because you have more than 5 axes of manipulation, the robot can reach a target with multiple different orientations. So it can reach a point with its a specific orientation, or with the elbow up, elbow down. You can have the 5th axis flipped. To simplify, there's multiple solutions. So you have to guide the system in telling it what configuration or what orientation you want it to reach this toolpath. So the simple way to do that is to click on the toolpath itself and then just go over to the robot control, and that'll open up your dialog. So I have all my robot axes manipulators here. I also have my configuration. You can see my joint 3, 5, and the OH here, and you can see that by default, it's approaching the toolpath in this orientation. Now, if I wanted to change that, I could select an all negative, and let's go down to my tool orientation. So right now, my tool orientation is defined as undefined. So I'm going to do fixed relative to part. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my robot somewhere where it's easier for me to see where that tool is interfacing with the part. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up my manipulator, and I'm going to choose my Y axis to be positive. So once I do that, I can hit the preview button, and you can see here that this looks good. This is the way that I would want the robot to approach the tool. You can see that if I flip my 5th axis around, you see how that knuckle kind of flips over there? So I can approach that with 2 different orientations. That's very important. You have that level of control here right within the CAM solution. So at home position, this knuckle is flipped around this way. It's in the negative position. So I'm going to keep it that way for its approach. That's really all I have to do. Now, I'm just going to want the system to execute the robot rules when I click OK, and then validate the robot path on OK. So I have those 2 checked on. Otherwise, I would just go and hit apply rules and then validate. But in this case, I can do it here. So if I hit OK, you'll see that my path should turn green. And what I can do now, I'm sorry, should I hit apply? So you can see the actual path. So it turns green there. That means that the robot can reach all the positions, and I'm good to go. The next stage is really just simulating the robot motion to verify that it makes the right moves in order to reach the part and then start the machining. So if I have to select my tool path. I go over to simulate machine. And then I'm just going to put the speed down here. And I'll zoom in here as soon as it gets close to the part, but I'm going to hit play. And you can see that it brings the tool down to the edge of the piece for the deburring operation. I'll speed this up so you can see the robot motion. Some other things that I can do here is, you see how my 5th axis is in line with my 4th axis. That's sometimes not a preferred position for the robot because you're very close to what's called a singularity. So what you can do is, if I exit out of here and I go back into my robot control, I can actually add a couple of poses. So you can see here that I have a before operation start and an after operation end. I can add some poses in there. I want to tilt my 5th axis a little bit. If I go to sorry. I just want to show you this before I go into the path itself. You see how I have my axis manipulators here and I'm at home position. Right now, my RA5, which is my fifth axis, is highlighted as blue. What that means is that I'm close to a singularity. So I'm not, the system can still calculate motion, but it's recommending that I move that fifth axis so that if I do proceed forward with the robot, that I'm able to actually execute through the current position to the end goal, which is to reach the part. So what I'll do here is I'm going to actually choose this, go back into my robot control and add a pose. And what I'd like to do here is for the first pose, actually, since I'm here, I can add an approach. If I hit tool control jog point, you'll see that I get a manipulator on the tool center point. And I can actually just move this up and say that that's where I want the robot to come to from its original, from its from home to the second, from the first pose to the second pose. I want this to be defined as my second pose. So I'm gonna do a after selection, hit the plus button here to add a pose, and I'm gonna call this pose 2 and hit enter. Now I want this to happen before the operation starts. So I'm going to pull this down. And then I also want this motion to occur to this position after the operation ends. So I'm going to copy this and then paste it here. The next thing that I want to do is from my home position, I want to start off in a certain orientation. So I'm going to go to 0, 0, -90. 0. And then for my fifth axis, I want to just tilt this down maybe like 20 degrees so that I'm out of singularity caution. And RA6 is going to be 0 as well. So what I can do here is I can define this as a pose to start with. So I'll hit plus, I'll add that as pose 1. And so after the machining, I'm going to go back to pose 2 and then into this orientation. I want to copy that and actually start off with that before the operation starts. So with that, I can hit apply. Okay. And then I can go back into simulate machine, turn down my speed, and then hit play again. So you can see that it started off in that pose. It approached the via point, and then it's gone right into the machining. So it's very, very simple because you have the full integration within Siemens NX CAM. I'm going back and forth very easily between generating, CAM paths and then, just assigning robot poses. So with this, what I can do is if I'm satisfied, I just hit finish, get out of this, and then I go to my post processor. I have a Kamau NJ130 post. And I'm going to put this into a folder here. Actually, let me just do this. Let's make sure I have this open. I'm going to go into let me generate a new folder here and see. I'll pick that NC folder. And then it's gonna export it as a MPF file, which is what the SINUMERIK ONE control looks for. And I'm gonna go ahead and hit apply. So in just a matter of a few seconds here, I'll have my G code, which I'll open up in that folder. And see, now I have a MPF file. And if I take a look at that in Notepad++, there's my G code. I didn't go through multiple different pieces of software. I stayed in Siemens NX CAM. I was able to generate my deburring path. I was able to add a robot pose. I was able to generate my G code in very few clicks. So this is really this workflow is just so advantageous because it not only allows me to stay within the Siemens environment, the NX environment. The NX environment enables a lot. Like I said, I just went through manually programming this, but you can use a full model-based workflow, which is you import a model-based definition, which is a CAD file with PMI. You hit a button and it generates the program for you. I'm going to show a little bit of what that is in a second here, but also when you're actually producing, when you're running this process on the machine, you can take advantage of all the, obviously the digital twin, but also the real-time data collection you can get out of an edge device connected to the robot. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So really quickly now, if I switch back over to NX Cam, I want to show you one more complex machining path. Can we delay lunch like 15 minutes? Would that be okay? Just gonna hit okay here. Let me switch over to the other part. All right. So here is a demo of a fan blade. This is something that we quickly modeled up just to demonstrate. So imagine we want to smooth the surface on this. So we want to do a polishing application. And we have our high-tech spindle, and we can put a padded sanding or sanding pad tool at the end of this. So I'll show you the tool path. We use the variable streamline path, and we can control the step over depending on the surface roughness call out. And in fact, that can be encoded in an operation set, which is basically logic that that NX Cam would have embedded within it so that it's in a position to automatically generate this depending on the PMI call out. But in this case, I'm just going to demonstrate this path. Let's go into simulate machine. And then I'll put my speed down and let's run this. You can see there the sanding pad there. It's going to start off at one end, and then I'll speed this up just so you can see it. The robot is going to stay normal to the surface of the part at all times. So we have really fine level control over that. We can, because we're in a CAM package, we have a lot of different parameters at our fingertips to exactly control how the end tool is presented to the part surface. So if we wanted to have a slight angle on it in any direction, we can set that up into toolpath parameters. We can control the speeds and feeds. We can even go into optimizing the path, either natively through Siemens NX or putting that into third-party plugins like Third Wave Production Module. I can also view my in-process workpiece, which I should have turned on here. Forgot to turn that on, but basically this gives your stock, and then as you're producing the piece, you can actually see the effect of the cutting tool removing that material. In fact, I can go into displaying a much higher resolution version of my cut geometry and see where my deviations are at to further refine the tool path. So apologies for not turning that on before. I meant to do that. But you'll see a little bit about that here when I switch over to the computer again here. So if I finish this simulation, take that off. There's just so many options here that I can go with in terms of what I have at my disposal. Here is basically the options that I used for generating this path. If I wanted to, if for example, if this was a smoother surface finish call out, I could do a couple of other things, but amongst one of them would be to tighten this up. So if I hit 60, you'll see that the spacing between decreases significantly. So the blue is before and the orange is after. So that's the new tool path. And you can see that it automatically, because I have a setting set in there to be always normal to the surface at any point that it's going to contact, you can see the normal rays that are projected up off the surface there. I'll cancel all of that. We're at lunchtime. If the audience is okay with it, I'd love to switch over here and talk more about the digital thread and the digital twin while you're eating. If that's okay, why don't we take a short break so that you have the chance to get up, grab your food, sit back at the table, and then I'll switch over to the next computer, I'll continue the presentation. All right, I hope everybody got a chance to get some food, and I'd love to go into a little bit about the digital thread and digital twin in case it wasn't common knowledge or you had some introduction to it. I'd like to kind of set the stage on, what the Siemens, platform enables, specifically as it relates to, the robotic processes. So you may have heard the term digital thread, you may have heard the term digital twin, but what does it mean for you as a manufacturing company, right? In 2 sentences, this is what I can say. This is the value that I'm hoping to present in these next few slides. So the digital thread is the automation of production programming. And the digital twin, the value that manufacturing companies get out of the digital twin is the control of manufacturing variability. So if you have a system that can reduce your time in creating production processes, and then you have another system that is constantly sensing and feeling and able to adapt to varying conditions, you have a circumstance where you are at a high percentage likelihood to produce a good part every time you produce it, you run your manufacturing process. Model-based definition is really centered to this, and what allows you to teach your CAM solutions how to automatically generate, your production processes, or in this case, CAM paths, is the definition that's embedded within the 3D file. What you see at the top right is a machine consumable data set. It's the CAD file with all of the requirements embedded within the file. This makes it computer consumable. Where normally you would interpret a 2D drawing, you would take a look at the requirements, like what material does the part has to be made from. You take a look at all the different features that are contained within the part, and then you take a look at the tolerancing that those features have to be made to. You would typically make a decision, right? Okay, because of this material, I better use this machine, this process, right? This particular tool, especially when it comes to certain kinds of features. And then if you have specific tolerances, you may want to think about the strategy, right? How am I going to produce that feature? If it's a hole with plus or minus 5 thousandths, you can do spot drill and a drilling operation. That's probably sufficient. But if you have a hole that is the same diameter, but plus or minus 5 tenths, or let's say 0 to plus 5 tenths, you may want to do a spot drill, and then a reaming operation in order to get it to within accuracy. Or let's say you have the same requirement, plus or minus 5 tenths, but the hole is 5 inches in diameter. So maybe you want to do a single point boring operation. These are decisions that you make when you see information on a 2D drawing. That's what we call a human consumable data set. Digital consumable data set is the model-based definition you see on the right. And what that enables is that if you set that logic structure, those conditional statements within your CAM solution, so that it knows how to make decisions based off of the information that you otherwise would normally interpret, but now interpretable by a machine, it can generate those programs for you. And now your work becomes validating the toolpath, maybe a small tweak here and there, but it by and large will save you on having to generate the whole thing manually. This is showing the functions within Siemens CAM that allow you to get from an imported model-based definition to a fully automated CAM path. So you have your CAM setup templates. That is your machine, your tool holder, all the different tools that you have available within that cell in that template file. So that would be like your cutting tools and whatnot, different end effectors. You can start off with a blank template in your CAM environment, import your model-based definition, and then open up your CAM template. And that'll basically set up your environment like I showed you in the demo here, where I basically just opened up my Kamau cell. That's my machine kit. And all I did was place my part in the appropriate location within that machine kit, and I was ready to go. I already had my tools in there. I already had, you can even encode or save in your template file roughing operations. So roughing operations are the way I save them, they're agnostic to the shape of the part. It's really just looking at the bulk of the material that needs to be removed. It's not, you don't specifically select on surfaces. It just looks at how much stock you have and what your end geometry is, and then how much material you want left after the roughing operation. And those are the only parameters it takes. So it's agnostic. You can import any part and just, you'll have your roughing operation there. The only thing you have to do is say that this is my part, right? You select on your part and then you hit generate and it generates your roughing operation. So it saves you a ton of time just in the CAM template. But then you can go next even further and do feature-based machining. So this is a button you click on in NX CAM and it recognizes all of the manufacturable features. It categorizes them into different buckets like holes, chamfers, facing operations, other kinds of manufacturable features. And attached to those manufacturable features, you have all of your operation sets. So the operation sets are that logic that NX CAM has built in out of the box, but in addition, anything that you add to it. That's all contained within what's called the machining knowledge database within NX CAM. So anytime you teach it a strategy or set up a operation set, or even if you teach it a new feature to recognize, it's all saved within the machining knowledge database. You can actually share that knowledge database. It's one file, it's an XML type file, and you share it with anybody that you need. So any features that NX CAM does not recognize, you can teach it the feature. And what you do is you just go into the dialog, you click on the surface so that it highlights the surface that you wanted to for NX CAM to recognize. You give it a feature name, and then you give it the parameters on what is it that you want it to recognize. Is it just the geometry, or is it the geometry plus the PMI? And so you can set that up and hit teach, and then you have an additional feature that it'll recognize the next time. And then you can add custom operation sets to existing recognizable features or taught features. So these are the four main functions that NX gives you that gives you the ability to teach it how to generate CAM programs. We have I'll bring up a QR code with the link to our on-demand training videos. We have several videos that go step by step on how you set this up. So if you really wanted to see it in depth and detail, just wait for that QR code link and you can have access. These are all free videos that are available on our website. One example that I want to show you is setting up an operation set. And in this case, you see that top feature, the two spherical indents on the part here. So these two top features here, they have a surface finish call out. One has a surface finish call out of 3.2 RA and the other one has a 25. So because the feature geometry is the same, but the requirement is different, we could save time in machining by not finishing the RA25 to a smooth finish, right? We can finish it to an acceptable level, save time on the machining. And I'm going to show you how we set up the logic for NX CAM to actually make the decision on, on the toolpath itself, mostly guiding the step over distance for a ball end mill. So what we're looking at here, we're going to go into our modeling environment within NX CAM. And all I'm doing here is I'm going to just double click on the call out to show you that it's recognized. There's a roughness of 3.2 on there. And if I double click on the other one, it's, it's not only associative, but it's also semantic. So Siemens can ingest all of the information contained within the call out. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to go in to, I'm sorry, that happened kind of fast. I'm going to right click on my particular feature and I'm going to open up the operation sets dialog. And all I'm doing here is I already pre-trained it with something in a previous demonstration. So I'm going to just go ahead and delete it here so that I can create a new rule. And you see that I'm selected on the feature, and in the teach operation sets, I have accessible all of the different parameters that are associated or that are available for that particular feature. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up a line of code. I'm going to say that let's convert the surface finish callout to a real number. So I'm putting 2 real parentheses, and then I'm clicking on the surface finish callout of 3.2. And then I'm saying that if the surface finish callout is less than or equal to 5 RA, that I wanted to use the area mill toolpath with all the parameters that I have set up already in it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up another rule, and I'm going to say for a rough toolpath, I'm going to go back into my teach operation sets, and I'm going to set up this similar kind of an equation, obviously deleting the one that I had in there previously. But this time I'm going to say that if the surface finish callout is greater than 5 RA, use the rough area mill operation. So what I skipped over there that you didn't see in this video, just so that we can save time, there's a video that precedes this one where I go in and I actually set up the oops, sorry, I didn't pause it. Where I actually go in and set up the operation set. So sorry, the operation to machine that feature. So what I did was I went into, just like I showed in the live demo here, you right click in my operation navigator, and I insert an operation, and then I can choose from a number of different, tool pathing strategies. In this case, it was a mill contour type. I went into that, and then I chose a area mill operation. And then what I did was I set up the parameters in the area mill operation to produce a smoother finish. So I was controlling the step over so that the cut, because I'm using a ball end mill to reduce the height of the cusp that's left over between the step overs. And then for the roughing operation, I copied over this area mill operation, and I loosened up, or I opened up the step over distance. So those were done ahead of time. And all I did there was I actually clicked on the feature itself, and then I put in the logic to say that if the surface finish is within, this, or if it's greater than that, that I'm going to use either the area mill operation that produces a smoother finish, or I use the area mill operation that uses a rougher finish. I could do that in a different way where I only have one operation, and in my logic, I put an if statement before that, and then I can control the step over distance within the equation itself. But this is just an easier way to do it because it's more visual. You can get into the dialogue and change whatever you want about the roughing operation, and it automatically grabs it in the equation. So here, what you're going to see now is that I opened up the machining knowledge database viewer, and I actually went into my area mill roughing operation, and I'm highlighting the equation that is now, or the logic that is now embedded within that operation set. All the parameters that are available in the dialog that I would typically have for the area mill are accessible. You could see below that logic. So I can control any portion of that toolpath. So now what I'm doing is I am right clicking, and then I had it automatically generate. Let me go back because that happened fast. So as soon as I come out of the view, and this is just to show that that equation was put in there, I'm gonna select my 2 spherical features, and then I clicked on generate process. And what it does is it opens up this dialog to say, okay, what kind of process do you want to generate? For what recognized feature? And here I'm selecting, my custom feature, the additional operation sets that I loaded or that I taught NX. I have all these other ones, like I can have it recognize, any of the mill drill operations that are there, turning, wire EDM. But in this case, I'm just going to save time. I'm just going to say, just use the ones that I just saved, and let's see what it does with it. So if I hit OK, it actually generates the operation set for me. And if I click on the area, the actual operation here, you can see that my area mill, not the area mill rough, is associated with the geometry that has a smoother surface finish callout. And then if I expand the other one, it automatically recognized to generate the rougher area mill operation for the surface or for the feature that has a rougher operation. A rougher surface finish call out. And then it just becomes a matter of hitting generate. And then you can actually see the tool path that's created. And here is where it becomes more obvious. So if I click on the two operation sets, you can actually see, because I went in with a spiral helix type tool path, that the spacing between the spiral is tighter on the 3.2 RA versus the 2.5. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to swap them around, and I'm going to have NX regenerate the tool path to see if it automatically switches the actual tool paths around. So I'm changing my 3.2 RA to 10, and then I'm going to change my 25, maybe, I think, to 3. Or I guess to 4. So now all I got to do is NX recognizes that I changed something. So I have to accept that change in the manufacturing environment. So I'm going to go back to application and manufacturing. And then if I go to my my features, manufacturable features, you see that there's a little icon there, and I just right click and I hit approve the change. And then I can just do create feature process again and hit OK. So here I'm just, again, testing the logic. And if you see it now, it generated the roughing operation for the surface finish call out of 10 RA, and the smoother one for the 4 RA. You can see that tool path, the spacing of the spiral there, of the helix pattern. And then for the smoother one, you can see a tighter spacing there. So again, this is, you teach it once, and it becomes a matter of clicking on recognize feature. It recognizes all the features, and then you right click on the recognize features and hit generate path. And it does everything for you once you teach it. And here is a deviation view. So this is after I cut it. I can take a look at the simulated, cusp height that would be left behind. So you can see that for the rougher surface finish, obviously it's a rougher surface in the deviation analysis. On the right is my smoother finish column. I have a smoother finish there. So I can adjust my spacing based off of the simulation I get out of NX for what I would, what that surface would look like after the cut. So here I'm just clicking on different points just to see the actual deviation amount. So in the interest of time, I'm going to proceed forward. All of that is to say that if you set up your CAM package to automatically generate your toolpath for you, you save a lot of time. I'm showing here a side-by-side comparison, time lapse of me manually generating the toolpath on the left for this part, and then having the having NX CAM run through the model-based workflow and generating the toolpath automatically. And then all I'm doing is validating the toolpath. So I go from an hour, 25 minutes down to 8 minutes, 30 seconds. That's a significant time savings. In fact, that's on the programming time, it saves me 90%. That's an order of magnitude. If it takes you days, it'll take you hours. If it takes you hours, it'll take you minutes. That's what an order of magnitude means. It's a significant time savings. Again, if you think about this, we're doing this for robotics, right? You have not only the accuracy and the precision that the SINUMERIK One gives you in the control of the motion of the robot, but you now also inherit all of the digital thread workflows in Siemens NX CAM because you're using that environment to program your robot. Furthermore, what we can do is we can continue on with the digital thread and do optimization of that toolpath. So we can vary the spindle speed and the feed rate based off of a physics simulation of actually cutting the material and how much forces the tool sees, how much force, how much heat is absorbed by the tool versus ejected by the chip versus absorbed by the workpiece. You can calculate workpiece deflection and all that. And in this case, I'm doing it through a plugin of a software from Third Wave called Production Module. So from inside of NX, I would click a button and I would say push to production modules. They call it the exchange, and it will automatically take all my information from NX, put it into production module, run the machining operation, calculate all the forces. It's a full FEA package. It will calculate all the forces, and then it'll actually optimize the force, optimize it so that you have an equal loading on your tool, and that you can take a look at the heat generated, based on the material, and you can adjust your spindle speed and feed rate accordingly. But what this does is once it optimizes the tool path, it pushes it back to NX, and then I can post it out for the machine. So this is, again, another advantage of keeping with, the digital thread workflow. I'm not recreating my scenario in another piece of software. It's being, I'm reusing the definition from NX into another piece of software and back. Now, when we talk about the digital, so that's the digital thread. If we switch over to the digital twin real quick, the digital twin, in this case, we talked about Run MyVirtual, Bobby had presented along with Lars the Run MyVirtualMachine, right? Which is the virtual representation of your machine. So you can actually run posted code, both posted G code in that virtual environment to do all your verification, right? That's the digital twin. The other side of it is when you start to talk about AI and machine learning. And we're talking about here AI-based digital twin. So if you're running your processes, you want to be able to collect real-time data and as much data as you can. So let's say you're in a scenario where you machine 10 parts and you inspect those 10 parts. And for each part, you have certain kinds of features. And for each feature, I have recorded, data from my machine. Data being all of these factors here, right? My commanded speed versus my actual speed, the power consumed by each one of the motors, things of that actual axis position. So in this case, with the edge device that we have for the particular robot, and we've exercised this on the machines that we have that run the SINUMERIK One, we can collect 75 parameters at 500 hertz. That means 2 millisecond delay. We're getting 75 parameters. So imagine a scenario where I cut 10 parts. I have all this data, and I have the result of that manufacturing process through the inspection. Now what I can do is I can do a correlation model. It's called a predictive model, where the next time I'm producing that part, if I see the signals going a certain direction, I can predict what the feature dimension is going to be rather than waiting to measure it. And I can do course correction through the edge device and through the SINUMERIK One, through the R parameters that it gives you. You can actually do tool length, tool radius compensation. You can do spindle speed override, feed rate override through R parameters. And you can do it through standard communication protocols like OPC UA, or you can do it from the edge device using an edge application. So I just mean to bring this to your attention in case you had more interest in learning specifically about the digital thread and digital twin. I'm going to bring up the QR codes on the videos that go into depth about those subjects in a few slides here. And I just wanted to introduce the project that we've been working on here at the Advanced Technology Center. This is for you. Now we're switching over to resources available to you as manufacturers. We're with our tech partners, and we couldn't do this without Siemens and ThinkPLC, creating an autonomous cell. The autonomous portion of this is leveraging digital thread for automation of production programming and leveraging the digital twin for controlling manufacturing variability. Those two combined we're terming as autonomous. And the cell, obviously, the goal is to bolster innovation and advanced manufacturing practices towards an Industry 5.0 future. It's really for you, but we don't produce anything here. We're constructing the cell specifically so that you have access to this technology. If you want to test something specifically, we can do it for you. Chances are at no cost through a state or federal program. And in this case, we have the Connecticut SMART program currently where we can do demonstration projects for you. The main takeaway from this slide is package solutions. Typically, when you're trying to incorporate digital thread or digital twin technologies, it can be very daunting. There's many different components to this, multiple different technologies that may work together. We want to just come up with a package solution, much like the package solution that we're going to present at the Kamau cell that ThinkPLC is offering. For us, we had a different control on that machine. We wanted to advance it. It would have taken us a long time to figure out how to, get the right controller, get the right PLCs, or do all the integration work. With us being introduced a long time ago to the Siemens technology, but then more recently to ThinkPLC, they had a controller package out of the box. All they did was, we learned about their capabilities, and we engaged with them. It was a matter of, the execution was a matter of a day. They came in, they swapped out the controller, for their package solution. And then it was just a matter after that of us just getting trained on it, really. And you'll see that being demonstrated out here. But the purpose of the autonomous cell here, the takeaway here, is that we'd like to present to you a package solution so you don't have to figure it out. We want to make it easy. We want to give you the full package, software, hardware, everything that's involved, so that you can just take it and run with it. And we want to validate it for you here through demonstration projects, validation projects. These are some of the cells that we're doing. So CNC machining, dimensional inspection, visual inspection, welding, assembly, deburring and polishing, sheet metal bending, laser cutting, part cleaning. You'll see some of that when we walk over. When I say package solution, we're talking about software, the workflows, right? If you're going from one software to another, what is the file format? How do you export it? How do you import it? What are the functions within the software that you can leverage for an automated workflow? Integrated hardware, like you just saw with the, obviously with the ThinkPLC solution, training at the Digital Thread Lab so you can upskill your workforce to be able to use these technologies effectively. And then grants. We can support you. The state of Connecticut offers a lot of different programs that CCAT administers, one of them being the Innovation Voucher Program and Manufacturer Voucher Program. This gives you up to $125,000 if you combine both of them, for you to purchase these technologies. These are some of the hardware systems that we'll have in the cell, just to give you a glimpse of what's coming. Some of this isn't in yet over there, so but a lot of the capital equipment is in. Again, this is all for you. This is not for us. This is what you will have access to. And this is the architecture that we've set up for the AI ML system, the connection to PLM and the connection to MES. We'll talk more about that at upcoming presentations. This is not showing up right, but I mentioned that this is the fourth presentation this year in 2025 for the Connecticut SMART program, and we're going to be doing 4 more next year in 2026. So please do stay tuned. Check out our announcements either on the CCAT website or through posts and things that you might see that are out there. This link here, this QR code, is to sign up for demonstration projects. So if you like what you see here today and you want to see a demo going on the Kamau cell, we're looking to do company projects for 2026. We'd like to line them up now and plan them out. If you'd like to engage with us, please do take a picture of that QR code. It'll bring you to the registration site. You can sign up. It's very quick and easy, and it's no cost to you. It's no cost. So we'd be happy to engage with you and show you the true value of these technologies. These are some of the other projects that we can do with you. So if you'd like to take a picture of that, I'm running out of time here. So we could do digital thread. We could show you that workflow on your parts, digital twin, where we reduce your cycle time by 30%. Autonomous part transport, autonomous deburring, AI vision. So if you have parts that have visual defects, we'd love to show you some AI vision. And then automated inspection if you're looking to automate your inspection processes. These are the 2 QR codes for the 2 videos. The first one on the digital thread. This is a detailed video that goes step by step on how I set up that program for the demo part, and taught NXCam to generate the program. And then the second one is the digital twin, which is showing you how we control manufacturing variability by collecting real-time data using the edge device connected to the SINUMERIK ONE. These are more of our grant programs that are available, but this is the link if you want to get to directly to the website. Take advantage. This money is for you. We want to make sure that you, fully benefit from this. With that, I thank you for keeping patient and for letting me talk during your lunch